Donald Trump gag order. Speaking of freedom of speech, a judge has imposed a gag order on Donald Trump. This would be the judge that's overseeing the 2020 election subversion case. According to the AP, the federal judge overseeing the 2020 election interference case against Donald Trump in Washington imposed a narrow, they call it narrow, I think it's actually kind of big, gag order on him on Monday, barring the Republican former president from making statements targeting prosecutors, possible witnesses, and court staff. The order came from U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkin, and it marks, they say, quote, a milestone moment in the federal case that accuses Trump of illegally conspiring to overturn his 2020 election loss to Democrat Joe Biden. It is, quote, the most serious restriction a court has placed on Trump's rhetoric, which has become a centerpiece of his grievance-filled campaign to return to the White House while fighting criminal charges in 4 different cases. I'll tell you, this one came out, and I said to one of my team members, wait, which case is this? Which judge is this? I mean, it's overwhelming, right? Alan Dershowitz has a book called Get Trump. Very aptly named, shall we say, because it's just lawsuit after lawsuit, problem after problem. Anyway, this is U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkin. You're looking at a picture of her on screen if you're watching this live. If you're not, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, congratulations. I so appreciate you doing that. Everybody else, I got to give you that link because I would love it if you could make sure that you do that. Just download it. It helps. Every little bit helps because when you download it, we go up in the numbers, and then Apple, it feeds the algorithm and they show us more. So it's really helpful when you do that. Anyway, so Donald Trump has this gag order, which he's saying, like, look, like this is election interference. Again, like you can't stop me from talking. And yet that's exactly what they try to do. But the truth is you can't stop him from talking. Now, can you? Because over on MSNBC, they're all worked up because he was in court today, not looking too pleased, by the way. And this would be on that $250 million civil case, which, by the way, this is like seriously ridiculous, like just ridiculous. I'll explain some more, but let's hear from Donald Trump himself first. He's in court, as I said today, before he went into the courthouse. This was what he had to say.
What's the response to Jackson's gag order? So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We're at a trial today that should not be taking place. As you know, the head of Deutsche Bank recently just testified, and he said that Trump did nothing wrong. We made a loan. We were very happy with the loan. We got paid back. There were no defaults. It was a very good transaction, and he would do it again. He was a very powerful witness. And we have other executives coming in from banks that will say the same thing. This is a disgraceful situation. This is an attorney general, Letitia, that went out and campaigned on, I will get Trump. I will get Trump no matter what. I'll get Trump. I promise I'll get him. We have 2 tapes on her now that have come out since the trial because people took tapes of her because they couldn't believe her ranting and raving like a lunatic. But just as the Attorney General of New York State, Letitia James, and she shouldn't be allowed to be Attorney General. She's defrauded the public with this trial. She said that Mar-a-Lago, she convinced the judge that Mar-a-Lago was worth, in Palm Beach, Florida, the most expensive land in the world, I guess, and the most expensive houses definitely in the world, that Mar-a-Lago, the biggest house, the most spectacular place in all of Florida, was worth $18 million when it's worth approximately, could be close to 100 times that amount. And based on that testimony and based on her convincing the judge that Mar-a-Lago was worth $18 million instead of $1 billion to $1.5 billion, which would sell very easily, which we've already proven, but we'll have people come up and say that and prove it, the most important people, the brokers that make the sales. But based on that, he ruled against me. He ruled fraud. I mean, he said fraud. They are the fraudulent people because they ruled a house that was worth 18. They put down as worth 18 million, and it's worth maybe close to 100 times that amount. And based on that, they ruled against me, having to do with fraud, which is a big statement. But they are the frauds because the house is worth $1 billion, $1.5 billion, 750 million. It's worth a fortune. Most expensive house probably in the world, and they said it was worth $18 million. And they don't do anything about it. But based on that, and also Doral, they have Doral at a very low number, and it's worth many times the number that they put. So they chose to do this. So I just want to say the head of Deutsche Bank came in. He said we were great. The loan was great. Everything was fine. And it was perfect. And this was their witness. It wasn't even my witness. And we have other bankers coming in saying the same.
So remember now.
Okay, so that was Donald Trump speaking earlier today. By the way, he's totally right on the Letitia James things. I was just looking for some sound of that. I want to play you just to jog your memory. This is the woman that's going after him in this bogus case, and I will explain why it's so bogus. I mean, he certainly did it some justice, but I'll explain. Look, I've been a financial reporter for how long now? Wow, long time, going back to 2000 I started, so 23 years. I'll fill you in on that and why this is so ridiculous. But first, listen to Letitia James right here.
I will always say to people who say, oh, I'm not going to bother to register to vote because my voice doesn't make a difference, or I'm just one person.
I say one name, Donald Trump. That's your motivation.
That's what she campaigned on.
Get off your ass and vote.
Get off your lovely language, lady.
Oh, we're going to definitely do. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally.
I love it. He probably does already.
He built his wealth off the backs of New Yorkers.
We need to focus on Donald Trump and his abuses. We need to follow his money. We need to find out where he's laundered money. All of those transactions have happened here in New York City. Tell this president and every other individual that no one is above the law.
Okay, I'm fast forwarding this because there's some music and we can't play it. But let's go back to the end here.
Running for Attorney General because I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president when our fundamental rights are at stake.
A legal system where even the most powerful.
So it goes on and on and on. It goes
country.
on and on and on. I mean, this woman has a mission. She's on a mission. And you know what? Her political future depends on this mission. She has to go after him. So she's going after him with this $250 million lawsuit. Now, let me just explain why this is so bogus. Think about it like this. Okay, you want to get a home equity loan of credit, right, on your house. And so you go to the bank, pretend it's Deutsche Bank, but maybe it's Bank of America. Go to Bank of America or JP Morgan Chase or your local bank down the street. And you say, hey, you know what? I think my house is worth X, call it 500 grand. I think my house is worth 500 grand. And I would like a home equity line of credit for 50,000 or 100,000 or whatever. Based on that, because I've already paid off this much of the mortgage, et cetera. So they're going to then go in, Bank of America would, or JP Morgan Chase, or any of these companies, and they would then determine, okay, is your house really worth that? And then they would make a decision whether or not to lend you money based on that. Now, that's an oversimplified version because you're talking about a company, not an individual in a house. But effectively, Donald Trump was guaranteeing that he would pay the money back with interest. So he said to Deutsche Bank, hey, I want this money because I'm going to build some new properties. And I promise you, I will pay it back with interest. And by the way, I got collateral. I got this, that, and the other. And then he had a whole bunch of disclosures in there and said, it's up to you to actually verify that I have this, that, and the other. And then it's actually worth what I'm saying it's worth. But again, it's kind of a decision, if you would, between the company owned by Donald Trump and Deutsche Bank. And it has nothing to do with Letitia James. I mean, now Letitia James is going to butt in. Now, if he was flat out lying and Deutsche Bank failed to do their due diligence, and as a result, investors lost money, or maybe the bank went under and American investors lost money, well, then we could see Letitia James coming into the room and targeting. In this case, it would be Deutsche Bank. She'd be like, what the heck were you doing? Why didn't you verify any of this? How could you take on this kind of credit risk? And then she might go after Donald Trump and say, gee, why didn't you fill out the forms right? But actually, in that case, you'd probably have Deutsche Bank going after Trump. You see how messed up this is? In other words, Letitia James has no business being in there to begin with. This is something that's got to go straight to the appellate court. I find it frightening because it really feels like, you know what? If you're Trump or associated with Trump, we're just going to go and get you any which way we can. You look at what's going on down in Fulton, Georgia, right? With their racketeering charges, etc. Oh, and one of the indictments in that particular case was that he retweeted something. I mean, give me a break. And now you get the gag order. I mean, this is really actually pretty nasty stuff. I'll tell you, it's just going to make him do better. Like, they can keep trying this. It's cementing him. It really is, as the Republican nominee. Hey everyone, Trish Regan here. If you enjoyed that clip, please do me the favor of subscribing to the channel. Just hit that little subscribe button right over there. Did I do that right? Not quite, but you know where it is. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you get the alerts, and I'll see you back on the show.